Greetings ladies and gentlefish, and in this video I'm going to show you a couple of tier 10 games with a very American feel to them. Kicking off proceedings with the T110E3. This is probably the most heavily armoured tank in the game from the front. The mouse has better all-round armour, but I think you would have to go some way to beat the frontal defensive capabilities of a T110E3. It is the non-turreted tier 10 American tank destroyer, so on top of shed loads of frontal armour, it also gets a dirty great big 155mm gun to wreck your face with. Now of course you have to bear in mind it's rather ponderous, sluggish, and if you can get this thing in the side or rear, congratulations. Unless he has friends, you have a dead tank. You will probably get the kill, or unless you fluff up really badly. He is here on the map that I can't remember the name of, Tundra, and it's a tier 10 game, and it's a very tier 10 game. I mean, there are 3 tanks on each team that are not tier 10. In each case, we have a tier 9 artillery, an unfortunate tier 8 heavy tank, I feel really sorry for the KV-4 here, more so than the IS-3, and a tier 7 light tank, and the friendly team gets off to an amazing start by losing their bat out. Now, let's be honest, no one wants to face a T110E3 frontally. Literally no one. You can penetrate it, but it is not easy. One thing to note, this little machine gun port at the top that you just saw someone aim for, this is not a weak spot. Oh, that's an FV215B. Okay, he can actually do some significant damage as he just derps you in the face. That is as close as tier 10 comes to a KV2. So yeah, that machine gun port is not a weak spot. There is a weak spot that I can think of on the front of the superstructure of this machine, but it's not very big and it's quite hard to hit and penetrate. And on top of that, you actually get pretty respectable gun depression with this tank. So it looked like one of I should point out, it's being driven for us today by Omu Subtier. I'm just going to call him Omu. It does actually look like one of Omu's allies hits him, as one of the bounce locations was from behind. Or maybe a shot from an enemy ricocheted. Ooh, that was a bit unlucky. Ricocheted off a friendly and struck Omu in the bum. Whichever. It didn't matter. It didn't do any damage. Now, Omu has lost half his health here. Quite a lot of it to that dastardly FV215B. And that was a slightly poorly aimed shot. The guy had already moved when he took the shot, so yeah. Now the T110E3, as I say, is very difficult to penetrate frontally, as Omu is demonstrating right here. And going for the swell. There we go, he gets the penetration on the Jagdpanzer, but with, off the top of my head, I'm not sure what the thickness on the Jagdpanzer E100 superstructure is, but with, what is it? Basically 300 pen with his AP rounds, he might be able to penetrate that superstructure. I honestly don't know. You can certainly do it with 330 pen heat ammo. And so I'd have thought with 300 you may be able to as well. Maybe I'm wrong. The fact that Omu isn't going for that shot perhaps indicates that that's not actually a viable shot to take. So Omu going for the weak spot on top of the Jagdpanzer again, gets a slightly high damage roll and takes him out. So this 155mm gun gets 295 pen, 750 alpha with its AP rounds, its HE rounds, that alpha goes up to 1100, penetration is 90, and with the APCR, just in case 295 pen wasn't enough, you get 375 pen, which is not the highest of any premium round in this game, but it's pretty well up there. So the enemy Jagdpanzer E100 has of course gone down. They do still have an FV215B 183 back there. Need to be careful of him because with those big fat Hesh rounds he doesn't need to penetrate to do damage, and he actually puts 1000 damage into the E4 there. Which is a little awkward, and Omu is just backing off and letting other people take the lead because he only has 500 health left. He has tanked this corner like a bit of a boss, and that seems eminently reasonable. Jagdpanzer E100 here is probably not long for this world, although the friendly Jagdpanzer flubs the shot. Omu does not, and finishes the guy off. Death Star goes down as well. and now there are only 5 enemy tanks remaining. They've successfully managed to push their way through this corridor, and actually there was a surprising number of tank destroyers on both sides of this particular engagement. I'm just going to speed this along a little bit because the E3 is not a fast machine. Can he put some damage into this E4? Yes, he can, and set the guy on fire. Looks like an automatic fire extinguisher though, which makes me a bit of a sad panda. But either way, over 800 damage into him. And there's another hit from someone for 950 odd, and the waffle thrower just finishes him off. FV4202, this is of course a patch 9.10 replay. Oh, Object 140 behind us, move, 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 move. So this is before the FV got removed and replaced with the Centurion Action 10, which happened in, what, I think it was patch 9.12, I think. The 140 who was behind them gets taken out by a Jagdpanzer. So yeah, this is, sorry, the FV here is the tier 10 British medium tank. Of course, the new FV, the FV4202P, the premium tank, gets regular matchmaking, so it does also see tier 10 games. Their artillery flubs his shot and gets taken out by the friendly artillery, and that is the game. So let's go and have a look at the results of this one. So that was enough for an ace tanker, shell-proof, fire for effect, and a steel wall medal. 4,198 damage done, 3 kills, 1,168 base experience. He came top of the team, fair enough. Not quite top by damage, that award goes to actually the M48A1 Patton. And the E4 was also around about that mark. Enemy team didn't really have anyone who stepped up to the mark. Batchat managed 3,000, which is okay. But the thing I really wanted to highlight is not the damage count, it's the 11,180 damage blocked by his armour in that game. 22 hits received, 4 penetrations, 18 non-pens, and remember of course that that damage blocked by armour value is not going to include any damage mitigated against, for example, the Hesh rounds from the Death Star or from the artillery. That is literally just, or shots that got eaten by the tracks, that is purely damage that was bounced. That's a big number. 6 enemy vehicles spotted, 5 of them hit, 3 of them killed, just shy of 900 assistance damage. With a premium account, that was a 13,500 credit profit. Would have been a 5,500 credit loss with a standard account, but you shouldn't be too surprised about losses in credits on tier 10 games if you're running a standard account. Omu there didn't fire any APCR rounds, fired 10 shots, 8 hits, 7 penetrations. 1 or 2 shots were a little dodgy, but in general his marksmanship was pretty good. So let's move on to our next game. Right, second game for you. This is in the T110E5, and this game is going to be less about stupid numbers, you know, less about a ridiculous amount of damage blocked or anything like that, and more about a solid, good, all-round, well-played game. We've got Daughtry here in his T110E5, the E5 of course being the tier 10 American heavy tank. And Daughtry is in the Omni clan. For those who don't know, the Omni clan is one of the best clans on the EU server. So expect him to play well. Now if you look at Daughtry's ammo and consumable loadout, you can see he's using the large versions of all his consumables, and in a tier 10 game I can totally understand that. And he has actually got quite a lot of heat rounds in his E5. More than I think I would take, but I'm not going to criticise it. He takes what he thinks he needs, and he's going to have success with his setup, put it that way. So this is of course a tier 10 game, clearly it's a tier 10 machine, you don't get anything else, and we're here on Cliff. And if we look at the sort of composition on both teams, this is, okay, it's a tier 10 game, but there's only a few tier 10s on each team. Daughtry is actually in a platoon, so he's platooned up with a Leopard 1 and an AMX 1390. Friendly Centurion there manages to do Daughtry a world of favours by blowing his tracks off. Daughtry does, however, manage to put a round into that Leopard. Was it a Leopard? I think it was a Leopard. And then one into the ST1. And the enemy have lost to Lorraine, which is nice, and then Daughtry loses a whole world of health to an artillery shell. There are, of course, 6 artillery in this game, 3 on each team. Oh dear. So, Centurion only damages his tracks, unfortunately. Centurion's a relatively squishy target, but yeah, track damage won't help, and bounces that one, but only loses his tracks to the return fire from the Centurion. So it's not the worst engagement in the world. Now, Daughtry does have to be careful here. Ooh, nice hit into the Centurion. Loses some health there, however, in return. The E5 is not invincible. I cannot remember when... The E5 received a buff to its armor profile when it received a HD model. I'm pretty sure this is post-buff, because I think that happened the same time the Japanese heavies were introduced. I'm pretty sure this is post-buff, but don't quote me on that. If it is, the kind of weak spot on top of the turret there, that machine gun cupola, is no longer really a weak spot. There is still a weak spot on the lower front plate, however, that you can take advantage of. There we go. But it's not a trivial penetration. So he's using this position reasonably effectively, but he does have to be a little bit careful about those artillery. You know, we're starting to get into the range where splash damage from one of those artillery could, well, potentially kill Daughtry here. Going for the penetration there on the IS-7, the way the IS-7 was positioned, a shot on the lower front plate would have just been against quite an extreme angle, so probably would have bounced. But he had an angle down onto the upper front plate, so managed to put just a regular AP round through that. Worth pointing out, he hasn't used any heat rounds so far. This is just firing good old-fashioned armor piercing, and with this gun you get 400 alpha and 258 pen with your AP rounds. Platoon mate, the gaming line, and his Leopard 1 unfortunately succumbs to the enemy artillery. I don't know how much health the gaming line was on, but if that was a direct hit, he could have been on full health and he'd have still been deleted. And the scoreline is 4-5. And of course, this is an Omni platoon. These guys are all from the same clan. They may well be on voice comms as well. So losing a top-tier tank like the Leopard from Omni is a bit of a hit in the nuts. Alpha Salty M44 hits, which is Daughtry's other platoon mate, this time in the light tank, the AMX 1390, also falls, which is a little unfortunate. So Daughtry is the last remaining platoon mate. He does manage to take out the enemy Type 61, which is a valuable kill. I have no idea what that tier 9 waffle thrower thought he was doing. He moves forward in a paper tank, exposing himself to all of the bad guys, and I think he was greedy for the light tank kill, but perhaps unsurprisingly he gets absolutely annihilated. That was just greedy and terrible. M41 Walker Bulldog comes up to test the waters and find the waters have a lurking crocodile, and he dies. Centurion 7-1 is still around there, but I do apologise about that. But Daughtry isn't going to, just push around there to try and secure the kill. He does, however, switch to a HE round here. Looks like he's going for, as he is, taking a shot on WZ. Oh, sorry, Type 62, same thing. And only gets 200. Loading the HE round, I don't know. I think Daughtry was aiming to pop around the corner and guarantee the kill on the Centurion. Personally, I think that was, let's say, slightly optimistic of him. As it is, he doesn't take any return damage for it, but there, the HE round guarantees the kill on the Centurion. If he'd had an AP round instead against that type, then he'd have done more damage, but either way, the type is now a one-shot for him, so it's not the end of the world. And if you actually look at the team, he has the lowest alpha damage, actually, of anyone on the team. So bringing that type into one-shot range is not a terrible result for that. Moving around the side of this hill, we've got a T110E3 down there, who is pushing on. There's a T54 lightweight around somewhere. The E3 is clearly the single most dangerous tank left on the enemy team. Let's just discount artillery for now, because the artillery doesn't really work particularly well on its lonesome. T54 lightweight is also barreling down this line toward the friendly artillery. Dotre finds the T110E3, and this is what I was talking about in the previous game. T110E3 is very tough frontally. From the rear, not so much, and he dies. T54 Lightweight is, however, making a horrible mess of the friendly artillery, and Dotre makes a horrible mess of him. Kill number 5. Tier 9 Waffle Thrower. This is where the HE round might have been useful. Although it may not have made a huge amount of difference. That Waffle Thrower is probably going to actually struggle to penetrate Dotre here. Dotre misses his shot, unfortunately. The accuracy on this gun is okay, but not stellar. And suddenly it's Dotre and his Tier 8 artillery versus 5 enemy tanks. 3 of them are artillery, but versus 5 enemy tanks. Now we know the Type 62 is a one-shot because Dotre put him there, and we know the Waffle Thrower is a two-shot because Dotre put him there. The M4043 is likely a one-shot. Tier 8 artillery tends to have just shy of 400 health. The Tier 9 Batchat, I believe, has about 450 health, so he won't be a one-shot. And the GWE100 certainly won't. Well, rephrase, won't be a reliable one-shot, and the GWE100 certainly won't. There's the Type 62. He's currently working over the friendly artillery. And kills the friendly artillery, and Dotre executes him. There's the Tier 9 Waffle Thrower. So there we go. One more hit to take this guy out. Bounces the return fire from the Waffle Thrower. Now Dotre is now down to his heat ammo, purely because he's burned through everything else. And the Waffle Thrower is dead. Now with the amount of heat ammo he's taking, I'm wondering if he uses this tank in Clan Wars or something. And so that might explain the large amount of heat ammunition he's packing. Because it's not as if he's just switched to it against all his targets. He's taken out some relatively tough targets, like the IS-7, with armor-piercing rounds. So he clearly knows what he's doing and how to shoot, and hasn't needed the heat ammo at any point in this game. But does like to carry quite a lot of it, so I'm wondering if it's Clan Wars. Anyway, this just leaves Dotre versus the 3 artillery pieces. And let's see what we can see. So this is a slightly awkward situation. Because, well, artillery is rather inconsistent. It will either miss you by a country mile, or sometimes it can just wipe you off the face of the earth. So this is still a slightly dicey situation. Now, Dotre clearly wants to go over and find them and kill them. If it were 1 artillery, I'd fancy his chances of capping, but it's 3, and there's a very good chance that with the splash radius found on high tier artillery that they would be able to... Oh, nice shot. That they would be able to just splash him at some point. Now, he actually... Oh, M4043 has 400 health. Oh, slightly low damage roll. That's annoying. He actually takes a hit there from artillery. I think it was a hit from the Tier 9 Batchat RT. It clearly wasn't the M40, and it wasn't big enough to be the GWE100. If that had been a direct hit from the GW, Dotre would not still be driving his tank. So the Tier 9 Batchat artillery gets a relatively small gun. It basically gets a gun that you usually see. So the gun on the French artillery doesn't really get any more powerful from Tier 8 and upwards. It just gets a faster rate of fire aiming time and an autoloader. Thankfully the GW wasn't on full health, so Dotre was able to finish him off. That just leaves this Tier 9 French artillery piece somewhere, but we don't of course know exactly where. Can Dotre find him? Well, he just knocked over a tree. There he is. One shot in, leaves the guy on 64 health. The guy is just going to come out and try his luck. I can't really say I blame him, but doesn't fire. And Dotre executes him. And that is the game. I don't know why the guy didn't fire there. He may have been waiting for his gun to aim or something, but he had to take his chances and give it a shot to try and secure the win. C'est la vie. Anyway, let's go and have a look at the results for this one. So, it's quite a nice haul, isn't it? Ace Tanker, Bruiser, Fire for Effect, Duelist, Shellproofs, High Caliber. That's a Nadin's medal, I think. Yep, for destroying a load of light tanks. Top Gun, Pascucci's medal for the 3 artillery kills. Kolobanov's medal for winning a game outnumbered 1 versus 5. And a Pool's medal for racking up 10 kills. Nice. Look at all the tanks he damaged. Look at them. There's loads of them. 6,762 damage done, 10 kills, 1,390 base experience. Easily outstripping anyone on either team by XP or damage done. Commiserations to the Type 62 on the enemy team. He managed a reasonable result considering he's in a tier 7 light tank. And there are a couple of other half decent results. The French artillery, 3,500 damage, not bad. 29 shots fired, 27 hits, 24 pens for that damage count, most of which was from relatively close range. Received 8 hits, of which 3 penetrated, 5 did not, and of course 3 splash damage. From artillery, for just shy of 2,400 damage blocked by his armour. 4 enemy tanks spotted, 14 damage. There's only 1 tank on the enemy team Dotre did not put a shot into. 10 destroyed and over 500 assistance damage. Travelled more than 3 kilometres. Made a loss even with a premium account because of the ammunition resupply costs of almost 54,000 credits. Because he fired some heat rounds, and he fired some heat rounds because he ran out of armor piercing. And also resupplying consumables there. Experience wise, once you factor in the ×2 and the premium account, that was well over 4,000 XP. So a really nice result there. Great to see. I hope you guys enjoyed that pair of games in top tier American tanks. If you did, feel free to catch some of my other videos and or subscribe to my channel, and I wish you very happy hunting on that battlefield. Ciao ciao.